Hello! I remembered to mute my other speaker before, even though I shouldn't have to, because I never did before. But I remembered to mute my speaker so you didn't get the echo today. Oh, I'm a clever person. Right. So, I did do a little bit, not a lot. Tiny bit of a triangle over here, kind of before stream. Well, not that you can see it, but I did do a bit of a triangle to the side of the motif we did yesterday. As I say, haven't exactly done anything else. It only feels like 10 minutes ago we were talking, so with that in mind, I do apologise. On the good news, Rory is definitely feeling better today. My patio maybe not quite so much. Yeah, it's borne the brunt of the Vaseline, but with that in mind, I'm happier that it's out in the garden, not indoors, so to be honest, I'm cool with that. Anyway, it is this time again. Yes, we find ourselves here. I've been thinking about trying to make an intro video. The problem is, I don't really want me in it. What do I mean by that? I have a voice for mime, really, in my opinion. My voice sounds like some hotline caller. You know, Samaritans, whatever. It's. I do not have a great speaking voice. I certainly do not have a great turn of phrase. But I also want people to feel interested in what I do. Because, you know, if you have casual passing and interest in it, maybe you want to give it a go. So it's kind of like I've almost got to make, not a tutorial, but something that contains, you know, information and distraction for a number of minutes as like an intro. Because, obviously, when the call to that I've gone live has gone out, you're not all necessarily sitting there waiting for me to press the button. Now, especially with the fact that I am rather unreliable in terms of precise timage of start. So with that in mind, I've been trying to work out what it is I'd want to achieve. And I'm not doing very well at it, that's for sure. So, something to think about, that's definitely the case. Can't see what these pins are holding in. But I don't think they're holding in anything of value, so. Now. Yeah, that goes in there. That's good. So how is everybody today? Hopefully you're having a reasonable day. It's nice out. You'll probably hear lots of outside sounds. It's a bit windier today. But there is plenty of sunshine. I kind of wish I was in it actually, but there is some sunshine. So I've got a feeling that Rory's out in it. He does like to sunbathe. Bless his little furry face. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can go out of the way for a minute. See, I knew you were outside, Rory. I'm a clever person. I knew. You were a good boy. Are you? How's your nose this morning? Doesn't look pink, so that's a good sign. Yes. Is it better today? You shouldn't pick a fight with your sister, should you? Dear God alive, dog. How are you not cooked? If I was that hot to the touch, I would be ready for, to be put on a burger bun. I really would. Little man, you are. I can't explain to you just how hot he is to the touch. I mean, I know he's a little black dog, so he does heat up well. But seriously, I've drunk cups of tea that are colder than this. You are hot, my little man. Lie on the mat. I've got put the cool mats out for you and everything. Please lie on it before I'm convinced you're going to have a heat stroke and die of something. I do worry about her, to be honest, because heat stroke in dogs is quite bad. Because of course they can't say to you, "Oh, I'm a bit hot" or "I feel a bit funny." They just tend to go a little bit quiet, and I assume the garden man's here to mow next door's lawn from the Usain Bolt level of leaping we've just done. Is it Russ? Is it the gardening man, the grass stealing man? Let's have a quick look. I know it'll be quicker to get a look at the window. No. Does not appear to be the grass stealing man. So I don't know quite what he was enthusiastic about. It's not even like it was Mr. Posty. No, don't know quite. I'm not quite sure what you were so keen on there, dog. Let me just poke my hair up because it is hot and it'll be nice for it to be out of the way. I've got to make sure I put the right side in because this is the first time I've ever had a metal bayonet thing, or barrette thing, sorry, where the spike that goes through it can only go in one direction. They've made it so the hole's big on one side, small on the other. I mean, I guess it means you can't put it in upside down, but it's just a bit weird. I've never had one that's like this before, so you have to kind of be a bit more conscious, because otherwise you're stabbing around trying to work out why, and it's not working, and you're kind of like, what's wrong with it? The usual answer is it's going the wrong way around. Anyone got any good weekend plans? Anyone planning to join me on Monsters and Memories? phone going ping quite so much? Why is everyone and their dog starting a... Someone smells. It's not me. Don't they, little one? What have you been up to? Sitting there all innocent. Stinky dog. This could be important. Let's go back and do a bit more of this side now. It is one of the weirdest things. One of the things I have noticed with making lace is, bear in mind, I can either work in a V shape so it's pointed in the middle, or a V shape so it's pointed up, and you can flip-flop between the two. But it feels like you only ever work on the edges. The middle disappears in, like, you know, a puff of smoke. But you seem to be constantly working on the edges. And it's not because of the snakes, it's not anything to do with that. Now, I did have a thought, and you'll have to bear with me on this one, because you know how I love to be indecisive. We're auditioning centerpieces for strips. Well, it dawned on me. If I only did snakes, say, on the outside of the curtain, I could do all manner of strangeness on the strips on the inside, for we know that those strips will be joined together in basically as good as seamless a manner. So as long as any motifs and stuff are not directly over the joins, well, we could do a lot with that. And it's been causing my brain some thought, because obviously we all know I'm making in strips, and I have no problem with strips. I like the strips. I really do. I mean, I know it's only a really short piece, but looking at this, even with the, you know, the funny joins and all the rest of it, this looks like a net curtain. But will having snakes all the way down it be a bit much? Now, there is the thought that I could do something different on all 6 pieces, or I could reverse it, so I make like 3 and then 3, you know, effectively flip them over and work them on the way back. More accurately, you'd flip them upwards, and so you flip them around 180 degrees by turning them, and therefore the strip would now be on the outside and all that kind of jazz, right? But it is this feeling of, should I be doing something different? Should I be thinking greater? I mean, I'm really excited for it. I'm really looking forward to it, but I don't really want to get into making, you know, 20 net curtains, because, well, that'll take me to retirement. So I you know, I have to be reasonable is the words that I'm looking for. Now, we all know that these strips take longer than they think, especially when only doing them on stream. Because even if I only do little bits off stream, it's amazing how much the little bits add up. And also, because you're not streaming them, you don't tend to pay quite so much attention as to how long you actually spent on them, because you can't exactly go back to the list and say, add up lengths of current stuff and, you know, all of that kind of thing. So with that in mind, I'm wondering if, you know, maybe I almost make the same strips, but I do it without the snakes, because if you took the snakes out of here, it would look a bit more open, a bit more free and airy. Because I won't say the snakes are heavy, but they are considerably there. Now, of course, another thing I could do is have some form of edge pattern, and then, like, snakes here. This one would be without the snakes but still have patterns on it, which means the other half would kind of nubs. So it would give me 2 stripes, kind of. But I think that, because it would be kind of a third in, it would feel a little odd. Now, in theory, with a bit of planning, you could potentially logarithmically do the snakes so that they're dense on the outside, get further apart, and then get close together again. There are so many stupid things you could do, and I think the biggest problem I have is that because it is a big project and you've got to kind of see it through, it is quite difficult to decide. I mean, I'm trying to see if I've got anything, you know. We'll use the example, Rory's example. So, this is a pink. It's quite a nice pink, to be honest. But you wouldn't paint your room in it by choice. Or your house, for that matter. You probably don't really even want to drive a car in it. But it's not bad pink. It's quite a nice pink. And this is the problem you have with large projects, is that in a smaller environment, things can look cool. In a bigger environment, it looks overly busy, gives you a headache. One of the first times I ever made some patchwork stuff, I made a basically 8 foot by 8 foot duvet cover in red, white and black, the colours of choice of the intended recipient. And to start with, yeah, whatever. By the time I got to it at the end, looking at it for more than about 30 seconds gave me an instant migraine. Because it was always kind of like, I don't know, black, red, white, black, red, white, black, red, white. And so because they were always equidistant apart, you know, I assume it goes with my vision issues, is that it gave me a migraine. Every time. And I am concerned that I don't want it to be too busy, but I also don't just want a wall of ground stitch, because that's really boring to make. But I also don't want to do too much. Hence, I've auditioned some really small decorations, because you could do kind of like, I don't know, big, small, so that they're equally paced. Actually, not quite, but you know what I mean, sort of that, you know, because obviously there's 5 there, so if there's 1 there, there's going to be 1 here. It's kind of in the middle, but not quite. So, you know, if you're going to do, say, big, tiny, big, that could look alright, or lots of little tiny, you know, almost like tiny, 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 big, tiny, 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 you know, but I do have to think about it, and I am not very good at picking, which is why we make auditioning some things that we, you know, we will have to attach to our collective here, and decide how much we like them, because as I say, I don't hate any of the things on here. I love this, but not at that size. This is a bit messy, so we'll ignore that. This looks a bit funky, so we'll kind of ignore that one. These are the same as those. These two are the same, and I kind of like them, but they're kind of held together by willpower. This is actually quite nice. I quite like this, but because this second thread's a bit, you can't see it off the bottom, but because this thread's a little bit loose and scaggy, it doesn't do it any favours. I do like that one though. That turned out quite nicely. But again, the outside looks a bit scraggy. No, I don't hate the intended spiders. I'm just not, you know, hugely pumped either. So most of this one kind of is ignorable. Kind of like this and that. These are better than those, but I still don't like them that much, which is why we're trying other things. The little rose ground has potential to be a little spot here. So if we go like big, small, rather than big, medium, if we did a rose ground spot in the middle, that could be alright. But again, it might look alright as a single strip, but when you've got 6 of them identical next to each other, so bear in mind all the bigs will be together, or I've got to do something with the strips and almost make more than one setup, so that they, you know, that maybe it goes big, and down in a line, and then big, you know, to go back or whatever. But that won't work because it's 6, so they'd end up with 2 identical next to each other anyway. Or big, 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 big. You know, you could do that with 3. As I said, it's a shame it's not 7, because at least then you'd have a pivot point in the middle. The problem is the more I think about it, the more options I think of that I could do, such as colouring the snakes. Now that doesn't work out as well as you think. Effectively, there is a pair, this pair, well, these 3 that come out of here, they then do most of the wiggle. But obviously where it comes in from the inside and goes out again, would not. So they're not going to be plain colours. They're going to end up slightly moulded. It's alright, little one. And of course, the finer the thread you go, the less colour choices you have for some reason. They only, you know, the proper fine threads only really come in white and black, which is a little bit pants. This is not ridiculous, but there's only about 6 colours that it can be. It just is slightly frustrating, to be honest. So I don't know. It's going to be... I think we can't really decide until we've got a full set of options that I've picked so far. But I'm also not convinced about these options. Because clearly yesterday's was a big bag of poo. To be honest, there's no kind of way of putting that. It was terrible. Hence we abandoned it and made up something over the top. Because it just wasn't really feasible. Even though it was a motif from my programme. So it didn't seem to work out, so we did our own thing. So as a reminder for those who are watching, I'm not sure when I will get a chance, if I will get a chance even, to stream over the weekend, because I am going to be playing Monsters and Memories, and it's an all weekend play test, so you know, time will be spent there and not doing this, really. 2, 3, 4, 6. Now, while I'm not listening to anything at the moment, there is something that my brain is currently entertaining very hard. You know how I get earworms with various tunes stuck in your head? Well, there is a song by a wonderful man called Josh Whelan, and if you have no idea who I'm talking about, he does other songs, but I can tell you now, there is kind of like There Can Be Only One. It's kind of Highlander job, right? He does a song, and you have the name of the title is Fuck This Job, right? And it is a very catchy tune. It's a bit country, I'm not going to deny that. It's a bit country-ish, but it is kind of, it's kind of on repeat in my head. Now, I don't hate my job. I mean, occasionally I moan about it. Of course I do. It's a job. It's not fun. It is a job after all. But I don't actually, I don't necessarily want to enact the actions of the song. I really, really don't, I can assure you. Well, I don't have some of the anatomy to do some of it. But it's just kind of, at the end of a work day when you've had enough, it just kind of, it hits hard, And I do love the tune. I really do. I think it's great. I think it's very well done. So, I encourage you to go and look up that song. In fact, let me go and grab you a link for it. Save you the hassle. There we go in here. We paste this. Personally, I feel this hits me where I need it to after a long day of work. If you haven't heard of it, so I share it with you. I really should put something on in the background to listen to, because it's not like you guys being hugely talkative. That's not a problem. That's the way life goes. I have no distinct issues with that. Asset manager, web interface. No, I don't really want to listen to that. Don't really want to listen to that. Don't really want to listen to that. I want something that's got some longevity. Now, I don't really want to listen to Unity made a game. Everything's everything's either 2 minutes or really long, or that's kind of interesting. I wouldn't mind watching that. Who did that? Okay. It's one of my own. Yeah. I'll watch that. It's always difficult when you scroll through your things and they're either short or things you'd need to watch to actually make any sense of. Anybody streaming that I want to watch, or I can have on in the background? Not really. There we go. I've got some noise in my ear now, so. Right. So I wanted to free up the back a bit, because obviously this is a bit more what it's going to be like working on the real thing, because there will be, you know, spare coming off the back. And I do have a plan to resolve that. That's not a problem. I have, not in my hand right now, but I have, you've seen them before. I used them on the squares, little kind of slugs that you pin down. Well, what you can do, of course, is you wrap it around the slug, and then, you know, you twist it around. So so with all of that in mind, it's not going to be a big deal. Ping. Ping. Have we made the news? Hello to Texas. Howdy partner, or whatever the phrase goes. Thank you for coming. I'm just reading a news article pertinent to work. Just checking how involved work was. Anyway. Right. So how are you? The biggest problem with things like bookmarks is that there isn't a lot of space to work in. I mean, arguably this is just a long fat bookmark, but it's a bit like knitting swatches. There's nothing wrong with knitting swatches. It's good for you. You get a good guide on how even your tension is, whether you match the average flow of the rest of the world. But there's only so much you can do in a 4-inch square. And it just feels very restrictive, even though a bigger thing's just bigger, right? I mean, I know I'm auditioning, motifs to go as a decoration on a net curtain, but part of it is I want to kind of see it in a similar environment. Some of it is I want to see how I feel about making it. But one of the things that I learned about karate when I was doing karate is that an individual move on its own, an individual move put with another individual move can really freak your head out. And you rapidly come to the conclusion that although, standing in line doing, we will do this punch 20 times, we will do that punch 20 times, whatever. The moment you try and put it together with other things, you know what? I'm never going to use that. That doesn't work for me. I don't feel that if it came to defending my soul, this would be something I would call upon. And it's true. I mean, it's the same with music. All music's made of the same bloody notes. I mean, it's not like there are too many of them. But some of them bring you joy. Some of them just wind you up. And while a bookmark is while doing bookmarks is a controlled test environment, shall we call it, they're often very similar. They're often almost too similar, so that you don't really feel like, it feels too much like the one you did last. Now, yes, it may involve colour changes. Yes, it may involve a slightly different stitch. Yes, it may even look quite different. But if it's made of the same stitches, well, it's the same thing. Just because you did cloth stitch on the outside, half stitch in the middle, and rose ground in stripes, well, then maybe you did rose ground in the middle and cloth stitch on the outside, or maybe you did them in, but you're still doing the same stitches. You're not really doing something different, if you know what I mean. It's not really that different. And I think it feels like you end up in a rut. And I think it's a bit like, making socks in knitting or whatever. If you cast on the same number of stitches, you knit for the same amount of thing, do a heel, do the same amount of thing, almost the thing you're doing in the middle doesn't matter. Because all you really remember is oh, I've got to do 4 inches of this, or I've got to do 20 repetitions of that. And you're not learning from it. And you start making dumbass mistakes. Now, dumbass mistakes are plentiful, and, we don't need no help in doing that. But part of the reason that I'm stopping making the squares, I've got half a square to go. And I will finish the half square, do not get me wrong. But part of the reason I'm stopping doing the squares, I'm beginning to resent them. Because, well, they are identical squares. Now, it would look wrong in a net curtain if they were different. If they were little, like this, you could do, half and half different ones. You could do kind of, rotating circles of them. But they weren't. They were kind of like going to be 3 across. Well, how boring's that? Hang on. More work shit. Hang on. But you do... The whole Russian Idra, it comes with a whole fleet of different names. Maltese, they're all kind of similar. Any of the, let's call them more ribbon laces, where you wiggly round the pattern, because it's the same shit, with a different name. And there are minor differences. But it's almost the case of, to the untrained eye, it's the same stuff. And to the making eye, it's kind of the same making it too. So the fact that there are differences kind of disappear a little bit. But I really like that. And in part, me really wanted to make my net curtain in that manner. Because, well, as you say, 7 or 8 pairs of bobbins compared to many hundreds, to do it in one piece. Hallelujah. But part of me found myself thinking, so let me think about this. If I get a motif that maybe is a repeating motif, and rather than trying to draw, because bear in mind I have no drawing expertise, so let's say I get a repeating kind of motif, and I do the motif, I've got to have a pillow that I can constantly change, but then I also need to be able to get it on a pillow in one piece, because I have to go back and, sew into various parts of it to complete other bits. Well, then I really need... Oh, Jesus Christ. I will pray for your sanity. Because, it's the kind of dumb idea my brain has. Do not get me wrong. Hello, I am making net curtains, so, clearly. But at the same time, I don't think people realise... I mean, let's say you're doing a big squiggly thing, or I mean, it's a reasonable size. But at some point, you've got to put them together. At some point, you've got to maybe work a little bit kind of more as a whole. Now, this was part of the reason I did the squares, was that they were only 5 and a bit inches. Therefore, you know, quite workable from that point of view. But 15 inches is quite a reasonable size. Now, it's not huge, especially if you're only doing 7 pairs, you know, it will feel fairly workable. But I can tell you now, when you've done quite a few of them to cover the roof of his car, they won't seem quite so reasonable anymore. And I don't think people who... I mean, a lot of my friends say I've got a lot of patience to do this. Anyone who's watched this stream knows I do not have patience, right? That sounds cool. And again, there are things like that. And the other thing, of course, is how are you going to attach it to the roof of the car? You know, you've got to be careful, because obviously, you know, this was, again, part of my thought on why I'm doing the test strips and all the rest of it, is that I have to be confident that my manner of join, that my manner of, you know, what I'm doing with it is going to work. Now, fortunately for me, in doing strips, not squares, that is a lot more flexible. The squares will always look like squares joined together. Now, your motifs will look like motifs joined together, but it will look like they're supposed to be motifs. Whereas my squares, a bit like granny squares, kind of look a little bit cheesy. And I think that was part of the reason that my brain started going off them, is it realised that the join, even if done very carefully, is going to be quite a robust, thick moment. And it's going to look a little bit odd. Now, I do have plans for, because I've got 3 of these to make to sample the motifs that I've chosen, I do want to retry at the end, if nothing else, the sew as you go option, because in theory that should give the best result. In practice, when I tried it last time, it really made a straight line where the join was, whereas the one I've got at the moment, frankly, is pretty invisible. So we've got 3 joins to go. Do be careful with tacking it in, because of course it may cease to be waterproof at that point. One thing you can do is carefully tack it down, but then put waterproof glue on the inside so that it's not too visible. But you make it rubbery waterproof glue so that it bends and doesn't crack and age. But again, it's got to be UV and heat resistant, because of course the inside of a car can get real friggin' hot. And I'd love to see it when you're done, mind. I think it'll be very attractive when it's done. I think, to be honest... Okay. I do think that large items are hard to come across in lacework, because yes, you could make a bedspread, but if you've got anything other than, you know, little old granny, it's not going to withstand the wear and tear. You know, if you come and sit on it, fair enough. But if you've got, if you sit on a lace bedspread, chances are you'll rip it. It's just your first thought, you're going to rip it. Most of us don't flounce around in wedding dresses, so we don't need veils and the like. A shawl can work, but a lace shawl doesn't exactly keep you warm or cool. It looks nice, but I'm into practical. So, I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to do a lace shawl. There's currently one up for sale that I've seen, and part of me does want to buy it, but I'm not sure I really want to buy it at the price. Let's see if I can find it. Hang on. So, currently, now they haven't got great pictures of it, and I need to point out that this shawl has significant damage to it. I'm going to do the boomer thing again, so there is a picture of it, right? It's very pretty, but it's got a lot of damage. Now, I'm capable, arguably, of fixing the damage. It is beautiful, but when the fuck could you wear it? This thing was made in 1890. There is one bit that I'm really pleased about. Now, I know this is going to sound really horrible. There is a failed join there. You can see it, right? The join fails in the way... Well, this would be the other problem. If you don't fix it, what the fuck do you do with it? It's damaged. It's got holes in it, right? If you put it on your wall, it's going to look like the moths have had it. If you try and wear it, it's got holes in it. Now, it was made in 1890 in the style of Chantilly lace, and could even be Chantilly. They do claim that it is. It is of a reasonable size. Allegedly. But they don't actually show a decent picture. But if I show you, for example, this picture, there is some considerable damage to it. It does. But then, to be honest, so does Bucks Point, because, well, funny enough, they're the same shit. Now, there is too much damage for it to be used as is. There is kind of... So you'd kind of feel that you have to repair it. But then, of course, if you make even the slightest botch of the repair, it's going to show like butts. Because they don't show the whole thing, you're led to believe there's probably more damage than they've shown. And it's not cheap. I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but I'm saying it's not cheap. So, currently, at no bids, it's £80. So it's only going to go up from there. Now, I do think a lot of people will be put off from buying it in general terms, because, well, it's damaged. Considerably damaged. It's not like there's a small hole in a corner somewhere. It is considerably damaged. Generally, by getting approximation throughout the piece, so it's not like, again, it's one area. It seems to be spread all over it. Now, you know, something that's, you know, the best part of 100 and something years old, it's not, you know, I'm not overly surprised it's damaged. Lace is not exactly made out of endurable stuff. You know, it's no polycarbon stuff here. We are talking thin bits of thread. So with that in mind, you know, damage happens. I mean, Christ, damage happens to modern stuff made out of thick thread, let alone ancient stuff made out of thin thread that may have not been very well kept. And you don't know quite how it got damaged or whatever. That doesn't look right. That's because it's not. That goes in that hole there. That's fine. But you do find yourself sitting there going, but do I really want to pay £80? Even though I'm fast. If it was in a shop down the high street, I would be down that high street staring at it and inspecting every corner to see how they'd done things, taking lots of photos, kind of pretending like I'm going to buy it, but taking lots of photos and really getting into, how they did what they did. Because to be honest, well, it also means you don't know how much wear is left in what's still in one piece. It might be hanging on, to use the phrase, by a thread. And that, pretty much if you fold it in half, 3 more holes will appear, right? So you don't, again, you kind of really, again, buying it blind. Well, pretty much. Now, those shawls were made in a similar manner to what I'm doing, which is make a strip. Join the strips together. And part of me does envy that because they have motifs going across the joins, and I'm kind of interested to know how they did that. I have some ideas, but again, I kind of really want to see it. But I also don't want to spend 80 quid on a incredibly delicate, basically a museum piece, just to see how they did something. It feels a bit of an extravagance. Now, should I win £1,000 on the lottery or something, and I've got 100 quid spare kind of deal? Yeah, okay. I've got 100 quid I didn't think I'd have. I could spend that on buying a lace thing that I'll never use. Right? But when it comes to food, household bills, etc., they kind of have to come first. And well, 80 quid's kind of like my week's shopping. So I need to be sensible. I mean, technically, and I mean it with all good grace, technically I can afford it. I could afford to spend 80 quid, maybe 100 quid, on buying it. But at the same time, it's still a lot of money on something that really I don't need. I don't need that in my life. And to be honest, because I don't wear shawls, I mean, I'd be more tempted to make it in a more rectangular fashion and call it a net curtain. But, there is that, as you say, there is the bit of you that kind of goes, I like it, I want to see it, I'd love to be up close and admire it and think of all the work that went into it. But I'd want to see it in a museum. I don't really need it in my house. It's not gonna get any better. I'm far from dainty. So, my dogs would rip it to shreds. Not intentionally, you understand, but they'd just successfully manage it. So with all of that in mind, it would kind of come here to die. So is that really what you want? I mean, it needs to go in a museum and it shouldn't really be up for sale like that. But I would love to see it. I would be down that shop, staring at it, taking photos of trying to work out where the joins were and how they maybe did the motifs so that the joins don't show. Because to a large extent, the simple answer is they make a strip, they do the motif, they add extra bobbins to finish the motif, so they make like a rose shape as it stands. And it wouldn't be that they'd sit there and play tug of war with it, or maybe they would, but, not intentionally, right? But all it could, something that old, that potential, because bear in mind, as I said, the thread's at least 110 years old, right? And we all know that it's made with stuff that makes this look like rope, right? Well, all it would take is for them to lean on you and for it to be trapped slightly and it would just rip in half. You couldn't wear it. Now, you might be able to make one similar yourself out of more modern threads so that, you know, they've got more life in them, shall we say. But even so, they could rip that to death easily. I mean, I've got a serious ton of my beige jumpers, right? They've got holes in where a dog claw's caught on them. Now, they're made out of, well, plastic. It's underneath something at the moment. Oh, there's one. Well, of course it is. Now, I was going to say I'd show you the label, but as you can see, it's kind of faded. If I hold it there, I can just about read it. Hang on. No. Maybe there's another one somewhere. Hang on. Oh, there's one. Right. So this stuff is made of... it's right, having to read 8 sides of things. Polyester. So it's made of plastic, right? But most of these jumpers have got... Don't tell me I picked up the only one that doesn't. I think I did. This one doesn't. But most of them have small holes in where a dog claw has caught on it and it's ripped the threads on it. Well, that stuff's, you know, kind of like this in comparison to a lace thread. And none of the dogs did it deliberately. You know, they were just being hello. I mean, I have got a shawly type thing, but it's more of a blanket with a slit in it. But I can't wear it for most of the time. It annoys the crap out of me. So, hello, little Rory. Hello. Little Rory, the little... Yeah, they were just trying to, like, you know, stand on me or walk past me or, you know, all of those kind of moments, right? And, you know, got a claw or was standing on me. There was no harm. I was probably laughing and enjoying it until they got the claw stuck, or I took it off and realised there's now a hole in it. Hello, little Rory. Hello. So, you can just see vaguely a brief nosette coming in at the bottom here. This is Rory. Rory has not had a good week. Rory had 350 grams of Vaseline, which, frankly, did what you'd expect. And that night, he was feeling a little bit rough, and, well, he picked a fight with his sister and he lost. So he then got a sore nose to go with the uncomfortable guts. So it's not been his week. But he's feeling better today. And yeah, feeling better today, much more yourself. Yes. But you won't have learned. When I say he won't have learned, you'll be going, well, he must have done, he felt sick. No, this is about the 4th time he's eaten a tub of Vaseline. So let's not be pretending that Mr. Paws here will learn from his experience. Because, well, he hadn't the last fripping times he's done it. Now, I will say, at least this time, the bulk of the output is on the patio, not the house. Yeah. But Vaseline, of all the stuff in the universe, I mean, in the kitchen, there's Nutella and peanut butter and dog biscuits and crisps and biscuits and bread, and you ate a tub of Vaseline. I mean, seriously? This is dog, you know, eau de cuisine kind of thing. I mean, the only conclusion is that it must, that I obviously smell of it because I use it. I hadn't managed to use very much of it, and I never seem to get to use very much of it because someone keeps eating it before I get very far. But I assume it's because it smells like me to an extent. Hey, Mr. Paws. There will be chicken nuggets later. There will. Absolutely. It's chicken nugget day. And as you say, they know better. They do know better. Stop licking. They do know better. It seems so, although I don't get it myself. Can't do much about them on Twitch, to be honest. Puppies! Just check what the dog's doing, because there's farmer jars out the back. Yeah, Twitch is very good at the whole kind of, it's funny because how many ads and what ads you get are so varied. It is really quite surprising. I was just checking what you're doing, that you're not trying to go and leap on Farmer Giles' tractor. Yes. Wasn't I? Just checking. Because I know you two. I do. I do know you two. Right. So, now we need more sticks. No. The only thing I will say to you is I was lured in by the ribbon lace thing, and I picked one that I thought looked really, really. I made a Celtic knot, and on face value, it looks really beautiful. To make, it was evil, because instead of making as a Celtic knot should be, and if Naughty Celt is lurking, he will very much vouch for this. A Celtic knot is a constantly is basically a never-ending knot, right? And so the fact that, because obviously we work from the back, that's fine, we have no problem with that, but you didn't start in a place and work round like you might think. No. You did this bit, got round to here, started a different bit, moved that one round, then you had to get the overy bits. But moreover, the problem for me, bear in mind I haven't got one to draw, but if you think of like, say, a triquetra, right? You've got kind of like the three kind of petal part. Let me get a picture. Hang on. No, I haven't got any to draw it on. Let me draw it on the back of this piece of sandpaper, right? And I need something chunky-ish to draw it with. No, that's glue. That's too chunky. There you go, you'll do. Right. So, if you think of a triquetra, now bear in mind I'm drawing it from memory, so it will go a little bit wrong. Right, but the reason I want a picture is for explanatory reasons. Now let me zoom in on it, which I now have to do manually because the camera thing is not working. Well, the camera is, clearly, and so is the Steam Deck, but they're not talking to each other, and I've got a ticket open with them because apparently it's all my fault that their application's listening on all the wrong ports and not trying them to get there. So let me zoom in a lot, like a lot. Alright, so if you started here, put an A, right? If you started at A, I know it's quite small, but I apologise. You would say work round this way and stop. You then start here at, say, B, and then you work this bit round to here and stop. You then can continue this bit round here, and then of course maybe it's going under this one, so well you probably would have started maybe actually back here. I can't do it with this one because the one I had was a lot more complicated. But basically, the one I had was kind of, it had a lot more overy bits, but you constantly started and stopped doing things like this, and then there was like a bit from here to here, and every time you started and stopped, of course, it was at a crossover. But what would happen is you'd get round to here, and maybe say have gone from this way round this way, so that you could put this underneath. But now this goes over but now this was effectively going underneath, so you can't tie it on, because the tying on always ended up you trying to dig through the layer on top to the one at the bottom to try and join it back in, because it was kind of coming, I know you can't see my hands now, hang on. You know, coming back down over the top to join the bottom. Well, but then you've got a bit in between and it meant that kind of like it was almost tucked underneath. The way it said to do the work that would be effectively underneath when flipped over to be the right side was basically, I would just string the bobbins across in a straight line across the gap. Well, the problem is the work that you did to make the cloth stitch kind of ribbon stopped too soon before the under ovary bit, and it looked bloody awful. So I ended up kind of having to make up and do the cloth stitch over the top, making it a bit bulky, but at the same time I had no choice because you could see it. And it was just painful, and I just found it hideous, and I paid good money for it. I mean, it wasn't expensive, I paid good money for it. And as it turns out, the pattern that I bought, you know, well, it was, but it was unnecessarily challenging. You could have just made it in one piece, not joined the last two bits together, then kind of flipped it to do all of the overy-undery bits, right? So, you know, chased it around, right, you go under the next one, right, you go over, so you go, and you know, past the under or over to make the undery-overy bits, right? Could have done all of that, and it would have come out great with one sewing. Really could. But the problem I had was that the pattern that I got was a PDF, fine. But the PDF was of a poor photocopy. Now, it claimed to be, oh, you know, these were like my grandmother's patterns and she's died and I'm selling them off, you know, to make a bit of money kind of thing. But it looked more like you found them in a store and you'd got the printed version only, and it didn't feel like they had the original. It felt like they had a piss poor copy of a piss poor copy. It's a bit like I got a photocopy from a book 10 years ago, and well, so-and-so, well, they, you know, 3 friends over had got a copy out of a book 10 years ago, and over the course of the years, the friends have photocopied the photocopy. Now I've photocopied the photocopy, and I'm sticking it in a PDF to sell it to you. That's how it kind of came over. So it's very blurry and fuzzy, and not that that was hugely an issue, because, you know, dots, lines, but it came over as you've been conned. And I was very uncomfortable with that. Just because it didn't seem, you know, the instructions were in German, which is fine, and translated those. But it just felt wrong. It felt like there was something missing from some of the instructions. Exactly. And this, you could see like the background folds of the paper, and, you know, because obviously it wasn't pristine flat, you know, they didn't iron it first, you know, and you're going, well, even if it was, you know, she'd drawn it out on a piece of paper and that's what you had. If you'd ironed it, it would have been flat and you probably wouldn't notice so much. But when it looks like, you know, it's a bit like, why is every photo of aliens and the Yeti the most blurred, weird-ass piece of crap you've ever seen, yet they can almost get your shoe size off the bottom of the sole of your foot from space? Well, if they can do that, why is it we can't get a picture of the alien, you know? Yeah, so I felt a little bit done by that. And I did actually report the pattern because it just felt unlikely that the person was who they were claiming. That maybe it was, because let's face it, I could now sell those PDFs as, oh well, I'm the long distance love child, you know. I could have been the long distance love child of the designer, and I'm selling this so that I can continue making lace in the name of my, you know, my great aunt Maud or whatever it is, right? But it just didn't feel right, and it really felt like someone had bought a cheap, nasty copy, you know, maybe made it and then took a photo with their camera and put it in a PDF and are now flogging it on the internet, you know. And as you say, for a PDF, I expect it to come out pretty prim and proper, thanks. I mean, the stupid part is that I could put it in lace 8, I could mark all the dots on it, remove the picture, and make a clean one. They couldn't even be asked to do that. Well, come on, you know? You know, you could have put it in Photoshop or something, cleaned it up. They either did that or they just couldn't even be bothered to tidy it up and just did, a poor photocopy of the original, and thought, screw it, that'll do, I'll post it for money, Whereas, 10 minutes in Photoshop and they really could have cleaned that up quite nicely. Yeah, it was just disappointing. But, should I make it again, and there is a good chance that I will make it again, there are quite a large number of changes that I would personally want to make. Because the joins between the Celtic knot were few and far between. In fact, there really weren't any inside the knot. But wasn't so bad. It was the fact that then to the outside ring that went with it, I've got it somewhere, hang on. Well, make it my own, but, it's a Celtic knot, you can hardly claim it as original. Right, hang on. It's going to be in here. It's going to be in my pot of, should be in here. There it is. It looks like some bit of screwed up underwear at the moment. Bear with me a minute. That really looks more like some child's underwear at the moment, so bear with it. Right, you'll soon see what I mean by the problem. Yes, it's been in my pot and folded up. So let me clear some space. Make a bit of room. Right. So you'll soon see what I mean. So when you started it, you kind of went round to here, because obviously you make it from the back, but it doesn't really matter. Let's flip it over. But you'd say start here where there's a join, and you'd work round to here, but then you had to start here and do this bit before you could complete this bit, so you were constantly stopping and starting. But the biggest problem I have are these joins here at the edge to the outer ring. They only really hold the edges down. As you can see, it kind of doesn't want to be flat. And part of that is because there isn't enough to keep its shape, because, well, there just isn't. Now, the Celtic knot portion of it, if I made it in one piece and then joined the very, very end up, yeah, okay, cool with that, I can do that. And I would personally make it at one of the points that's quite thick, so, but here, in between each of these parts where there should be a gap is where you sewed it together. So as you can see here, well, you probably can't see because it's quite small, but if I bring it up, you can see that there is this really untidy sewing, and it just makes it look untidy. And of course, there didn't need to be quite so many sewings, because there literally are. There's one there. It's more than that. I'm sure there's more than that. But you just kind of, it didn't feel logical making it, right? And I would love to have basically made, say, this motif a bunch of times with a few more joins to give this a bit of stability. So a couple here, to make this stay flatter. Because even if you only did one here in between, it would give them the stability to be a little bit more, because, well, it just screws up because they twist, because nothing really holds anything where it should be. And what could you really use this for? You can't exactly, pick a corner and hang it, because, well, there's no structure to it. I didn't hate making it. I quite enjoyed making it, except for the stopping and starting and the constant trying to sew things, because it did really feel that there's some sewings under here as well, and it did kind of feel like you were constantly stopping and starting, and you had at least 2 or 3 sections on the go almost at any point. And it didn't feel like a Celtic knot, because it should be one piece. Now, let's say I started here. Well, if I made a piece that went round here and did the whole kind of, you know, roundy thing, and got to the end, and, you know, made a bit of an overlap to join them together and tied it off very neatly in knots, right? I could then pass it round. I know it would be in shape, but you can pass it round and, you know, poke it through the holes, because it is effectively a ribbon. You could poke the end through and pull it through to make the shape, and then get round and have one sewing. Then you put the points back on the pillow, because you don't need to sew this down, to make the ring that goes round it. So I would much rather do that next time round. I would not do it this way ever again. But I did enjoy the fact that it was just a handful of bobbins. I really did. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And as I said, you know, in some ways, making it'd be even prettier if it didn't look quite so manky, because I did the first join, but you can see here, I followed their instructions, but there's a big unworked, well, you probably can't see because it's too far away, but there's unworked bits where the joins were, and some of the joins do look, because they are joins, so it's fused together, it's not apart like a Celtic knot would be. It kind of, it just kind of sucks. So yeah, I do struggle, because I'm just looking at it. If I started here, where was it? Pick an end. Hang on. Flip it over to the right side. So if I started, say, here, and I lay that down, I wouldn't have to worry about that because that comes later. That goes underneath, so that's fine. That goes underneath. See, that's wrong. Oh, it goes over that one, that's why. So you had to stop and do this bit before you can do that bit. And so you can't do it in one piece. Well, there really does feel like there should be. Now, looking at the individual triquetras, if you start here and you did the whole round and came back to here, you could then do them in the right order so that, you know, if I did it that way round, no, that wouldn't exist yet, so can't do it that way. You'd have to do it this way round in a kind of in a anti-clockwise direction. That's fine, because we're working from the back, and that would give us that on the, but that would end up on top. So you'd have to kind of start just this side of it, maybe. So you'd make the triquetra, and I'd probably do it a bit Bucks Point style, in that you'd instead of hanging pairs and just going for it, you'd have pairs where you'd have twice as many pairs. So instead of 7 pairs, you'd have 14, but the 7 pairs would come down that, you'd have, well, 7 pairs going that way and 7 pairs going that way, so you'd have 14 pairs kind of thing, so that you end up with the threads to come back the other way, so that when you got back to this bit, you could actually cloth stitch them together, and then when you start this one, you're using the same threads, but you've cloth stitched them together, so this one's now ready to go and do this one, if you know what I mean. And so I do think that there is a way of doing it without making it half as hard as they did, and it would look a lot better for it at the long run, and it would be more realistic. But I don't like the fact that the only joins you really had were from the end of here The other thing that I hated were these little knobbly bits that you can barely see on the edge, because you'd think that it's the thread from here coming in and going out the other side. No, it's not. They're just knobbly bits on the outside, and they don't line up. They don't line up on the pattern at all. And it's kind of like, well, where do you get them from? Because it's not a natural then thing to do. So yeah, I like the idea, but it kind of naturally screws itself up into what looks like child's underwear, really. Let's put it back in its pot. But I definitely will revisit it and, you know, try out my ideas, because, well, what's the worst that can happen? It'll look like crap, and or I will fail miserably. Well, you know, that's you know, it's you know, if it didn't take that long to make, to be fair. And part of the reason, of course, it doesn't take that long to make is because it's 7 pairs of bobbins. Yeah. Or I hate it. Or I actually hate it even more than the shenanigans that I did the first time, you know. So yeah, I definitely will do that again. But in my own way. Because, you know, I'm not the most experienced lace maker, but that just seems half weird. So yeah, it was that was such a disappointment that when you finished it, well, you can argue I've only really been making lace since August last year. So, you know, worry not. But I've always had this very odd ability to go to some form of craft and almost within a couple of weeks have absorbed enough that I can almost talk at the same... I haven't got the same physical experience, so I haven't made all the things... and I haven't got the speed of some of these, you know, people on the internet that really scare you. Did I not twist you? I don't think I did. So, you know, I haven't got the physical proof of practice afterwards. No, you do have. So why are you not doing your thing properly? But in the long run, I do kind of tend to pick up things exceptionally quickly. And they just make sense to me. So, you know... You know, I mean, if I tell you, when I learnt to crochet, having never seen or done any crochet, well, I'm only a few years younger than you, like 4, so I find that because lace is only made of 2 moves, a bit like knitting, knit or purl kind of thing, it's not complicated. It's just doing repetition, but I find that, you know, even in crafts that are a little bit more complicated, a little bit more involved, I've always picked them up exceptionally quickly. So I'm being picked on by a fly now. It's the only problem of having the windows and stuff open. So, you know, it is for me. I've always picked things up quickly. As I was saying, I picked up crochet, and I followed a pattern, and I didn't like something about the pattern, so I omitted that bit because it was quite clear to me that, well, I could omit that bit because I was doing fillet crochet. So you have filled in hole, not filled in hole. Yeah, I think people of our age generally pick shit up quite well. And because fillet crochet is basically fill in a square, don't fill in a square, and on this one they got like kind of joiny angly stitches that I just thought looked stupid because it didn't add to it, if you know what I mean. If it had made rounded off the pictures, or it just was daft. So I didn't do. And so I then decided that I wanted to make a fillet crochet thing because, again, it's only filling in squares, I can manage that. And so I designed my own. And I had people going, oh, I've been doing this 20 years, I couldn't do that. Bitch, I've been doing it a day. Literally one day. What do you mean you can't? How do you not? I mean, I understand not having the confidence. I understand that you're hesitant to make changes because you're not confident about how they turn out. But like so much of this, even with this, when I came to my motif for yesterday, which is back here, the one I was originally going to do didn't make any freaking sense. So I did something else. Because the one that kind of didn't look like it was going to work out, and exactly, you know, you can do an awful lot with fillet crochet, right? And then I learned Tunisian crochet, made my own pictures of that, and you had all these people going, oh, that's far too complicated. What? Putting coloured spots in a cross-stitch program, which is what I used, and then following them. Really? Am I really that intellectually superior to some of you people out there? And the answer is no. I mean, I'm not stupid, but there are times that you're sitting there going, you know, if the ones that get me, because you obviously, you know, have done a number of photographs too, when they post a picture of, say, a knitting pattern, and you can see the V's of the stitches, like from space, and they go, can someone do me the pattern for this? Yeah, well, none of us use the UK terms because, well, but, you know, but what annoyed me was that, you know, you'd get a picture of, let's say, a dog paw, right? And you get someone can someone make a pattern out of this? What, you can't count the stitches? I'm sitting across the room from my computer and I can see the stitches. What do you mean? You've got the pattern, it's there. Oh no, I could, seriously, you know that the V's make a grid, you know that they make a, how can you not? It's lazy people. But they're all acting like it's, you know, it's black art voodoo stuff, and it's like, seriously, it is the easiest thing to do. And then if you don't like it, you want to make it a bit bigger. Well, yes, okay, making, you know, if you have a jumper pattern and you wanted to enlarge it because, I know, you're pregnant and you've got a belly, or you're just fat like me, you know, sometimes adding sufficient to it to make, you know, so the booby fairy that comes is allowed for or whatever, that takes a bit more skill. But when you just want to put a picture into a grid, did you not colour squares when you were a child? I mean, is our generation so weird? Because we did loads of that. How is it that, you know, and as you say, but then you see, of course, if you kind of go, well, can't you do this? Oh, no. What, are you going to pay me? Oh, no. Well, then what makes my hands any better than your hands? Why should I do it for you if you're not, you know, you're not prepared to pay, you're not, you know, for wasting my time doing it for you. There was a woman, she'd got a picture she wanted digitising, and she couldn't do it. But it was kind of like, I can't remember what it was, but it was almost an arrow. So it had to come in, go up, make the arrow shape, come in, and go down and go across. So it was literally one line. ditto. I didn't have lessons. I really love spinning. I mean, you know, did I make some pretty ugly yarn to start with? Heck yeah. Did I get better at it? Heck yeah. You know, I now spin when I'm in the mood. Stuff that could pass as, you know, almost commercial for its evenly doneness, you know. It's not so much thick and thin as we all make when we start. And, you know, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that if I want to make a good, consistent yarn so that I can make an item of clothing out of it, it won't look like the dog's already eaten it, because, well, it'll look, you know, I want my stuff, realistically, whether I've knitted it, crocheted it, wove it, laced it, or whatever, for someone to go, oh, where did you buy that from? And for when I go, I made it, for them to look slightly stunned because they really thought I'd spent good quality money buying it. That is my idea of crafting. Now, not everybody shares that idea of crafting, and that's fine, you know. Some people like the it looks like a 3-year-old did it look, and if that's you, kudos to you. But I don't. I want it to look like, I want it to be a surprise to people when I say I made it. I want them to think that I paid some designer bougie person a lot of money to buy it at an extortionate, you know, kind of rate. And no, I got the raw materials. I did it myself, thanks. You know. During COVID, I can't believe I did this during COVID. I am not the greatest knitter, mainly because as a child my mother made me hate knitting as a general rule. But I did some knitting during COVID because, well, there was bugger all else today. And I sat down and I started, for the first time ever, exactly. But, you know, during COVID, I need to point out, I have knitted a couple of jumpers, right? But they've always been the knit the back, knit the front, knit some sleeves, sew it all together kind of jumpers, right? During COVID, I sat down and did a top-down, all-in-one jumper from a pattern that I made myself and worked out for myself as I went. I did write it down, I'm not stupid. But I sat down and worked out how big, because of course being top down you can kind of go, I really enjoyed it because now I didn't do a round neck jumper, I actually did a V-neck jumper, but with a collar. So you make kind of like, you go backwards and forwards almost making a slightly growing kind of, I can't remember what they're called, rhombus I think is the phrase. You then get to the point where you divide for... Hang on. So, meet my lockdown jumper. Let me move this because it's got pins on it. Let me put this away. Let me put you in sticks so that you don't flee the country. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You go in here. Come on. You go on there like that. That'll do. Right. You move this somewhat out. Whoa! Table alert. My table doesn't have 4 corners, need to remember that. Right, just catapulted things off. I have to go digging off the floor for them later. Right, this is my jumper. Now, the first one I made was plain, because, well, it was. So I started here, and I made a straight bit for my collar. I then put some markers in. Oh no, this is the second one. This is the second one because I put cable in it. As you can see, there's a cable down the sleeve. So I added a few extra stitches here to make up for the cable. But there's no join absolutely anywhere. While this looks like a join, it's a raglan join, so it's not actually a join. There is not a single bit of sewing in the entire jumper. Now, this is a me-sized jumper, so yes, I'm fat, bite me. And it's also, I hate to say it, this is acrylic, but this is the softest, squishiest thing. Anyway, so anyone who hates on acrylic can go jump. This is seriously the most softest thing you will ever softest, right? But I even made the front bigger than the back because, well, I have boobage. Well, we're around in case the zombies happen, right? And as there was a thing I saw on social media that made me laugh. I'm not fat, I'm just difficult to kidnap. Anyway, I made the front marginally bigger than the back so that it allows for a little more bag where the girls require, right? But there's no shaping in it for it. It's just a jumper. But well, basically, if you're not made of anorexia, you tend to have a boob problem, right? It's kind of goes a little hand in hand, because of course they're made of fat. So, but I made the sleeves long enough for me. So what I did was, as I got to them on the raglan sleeve, I got down to here, which is, so it's all one piece as you get down to level with the armpits. You then stop, put these on a bit of string and continue down to making it as long as you like. I like my jumpers slightly longer so they can't get to my butt. I don't like them as finishing at my waist. And then you go back, so hence there is a little bit of a line where I joined, but you know, I faked the join because obviously it's not a real join, but it's a fake join for the sleeve, and I can prove that by turning it inside out. There is no join. There is not a single join on the entire jumper, and it fits like a glove. It's also soft and squishy, and I've got two. I've got a slightly purple one and I've got this green one. Well, I like it, and it is one of those things. I actually made 3 because I gave one away. But this is what I did. This didn't actually take me that long, surprisingly. Even though I was kind of working it out as I went, it didn't take me that long. I really liked it. I even did Kitchener stitch ending to give me a fancy bottom. Yeah. I really like it, and I've got a couple of these. Got one with a cable, one without. Absolutely loved it. Now, let me rescue the things that took a leap. Wasn't much. I don't tend to keep much on my table. I'm sure there was something else on the edge. Can't think what it would have been though, so... Well, not anymore, clearly. This back on. There we go. So yeah, and yet, you know, I'd never made a top-down jumper before in my life. I just applied some logic. It was no more than that. It was, I am this fat, I require so many stitches. You know, at my maximum wide part, I need so many stitches. I want a baggy kind of collar and a bit of a V-neck because, you know, I don't want to strangle myself. And, you know, it was just one of those kind of moments. I'll add some here, I'll divide it up fairly equally, a bit more at the front than the back. And, you know, obviously less for the sleeves, but still plenty. Well, exactly. I mean, it's you know, it's part of the point of a gauge swatch is you then know exactly how many stitches to the inch. If you know how many stitches to the inch and you know how many inches you need to make, well, now you know how many stitches you need to get to. No. Increased till number of stitches is required. Stop. It pretty much was that logic. It was, you know, because I don't know about you, but one of the things that I always find surprising about when knitting jumpers is that the sleeves are almost bigger than the front or the back, because you normally knit them flat, and at their widest point, they're almost wider than the wretched front or the back of the jumper. So you know you're going to need to split it effectively into roughly 4 equal parts. And if you need, I don't know, 100 stitches to go around your middle, clearly I need more than 100, but go with it. If I need 100 stitches to go around the middle, then the front and the back need to add up to 100 to go around the middle. Add. Oh, I've got 100 now. Ta-da! I think I ended up with 132 stitches across the back. But, you know, I've got it in a book somewhere. I wrote it down. I wrote down the magic numbers. Cast on this many. I think I start off with 110 stitches for the collar. Make the collar. And then divide them up. So I think you kind of do kind of like 22 for the sleeves, 24 for the back, and like, you know, 28 or something for the front. Oh, however it adds up, because of course you've got a couple of stitches for the actual raglan shapey bit as well. And it's 5 years ago. My brain still remembers this crap. God help my brain, right? But you do sit there and it's kind of like, so I've divided it into 4. Increase till you reach desired width. Well, as my boobs are under my armpits, you will have reached the bottom of the armpits. You know. Stop going round the arm section, put them on a bit of string for good measure. Come back to them later. Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely enjoyed making that. Absolutely enjoyed making those. Especially because the yarn, being acrylic, is therefore fairly hard wearing. But also because it's so ridiculously soft. And it came in a lot of colours. I'd have to dig out which yarn it was, because that I don't remember. And it was 5 years ago. But I'm 99.999% sure I bought it off Amazon. Hang on. Let's go and see if I can find it. I'm not sure it's going to show me, but we can find out, can't we? Or yarn. Karen Simply Soft acrylic knitting yarn wool comes in 170 grams. That's the stuff I bought. There you go. You know, you've almost got my entire pattern. The rest is decorations of your choice. Much like doing this. I could stick a decoration. I could put a motif like a dog paw on the arm. Change colour. Change colour. Change colour. I mean, it's a bit harder to do the changing. Yeah, it is. I mean, for an acrylic, it is ridiculously soft. Hence, I made a number of jumpers out of it because, well, I really liked it. So I bought more of it and made more of them. As I say, I did give one away. But I do have this urge to make more. Now, of course, one of the advantages of my pattern, well, if I didn't go in the round, I could have just gone backwards and forwards and called it cardigan. So the only difference it needs to be is instead of, you know, where I had the split for the V, instead of then joining it in the round, keep the V and just keep turning backwards and forwards. I mean, now it's a cardigan. Yeah. You know, and so it, you know, when someone says, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly do that," well, why not? I mean, you know, I'm hardly, you know, running the universe here. I am mere mortal. I mean, I'm not a stupid person, but I'm not, you know, I'm not special. I just bothered, and I think, as you said, it is the laziness of it, and I think that's the bit that I struggle with. Is no, the difference, love, is that I bothered, you didn't. You know. By the way, ads are coming, as you can see from the corner. Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a problem and you don't understand how to maybe calculate something, or you have something very specific in mind and you've tried, but when you did it, it didn't look right and you can't quite work out how it was wrong, that's a very different principle. But when you just sit there kind of doing oh, well, I couldn't possibly do that, well, not with that attitude, you won't know. Actually. I don't feel like I put holes in here. No, there are holes. Maybe I just missed the one. Yeah. The only thing that I've never managed to sort out in my head is the amount of thread needed to make any given pattern. Because very, very few patterns that you can buy say, wind X meters of thread onto a bobbin. They just go, you will need a bunch of bobbins and this size thread. Yeah, but how much of it? So with these strips, I am also working out how much, because I know how much I put on here. I put 3 meters of thread on these bobbins. And as a result of putting 3 meters on this thread, I can tell how much will be left when I get to the bottom. So this, I'm calling... Yep. Once an hour is the short answer. Over here, you get ads once an hour. And to warn you in advance, there is a little brown box that pops up in the top left-hand corner to say the ads are coming. It is your sign to go and get a drink and go for a pee, because, well, no one wants to watch the actual ads now, do they? And just let them do their thing, you know. That's my general advice for the ads. I'm actually working on a little cartoony thing. I haven't shown it for a while, but I haven't done any work on it for a while either, to be fair. So, with that in mind, yeah, I've got a thing. Hang on, where are we? There. Right, hang on. Let me load it up first. Hang on, and I'll show you what I was working on. I need to point out I haven't done a lot on it, so don't get too excited. Bear in mind, I have the artistic talent of a squashed egg frog. But what I am is logical. So, come on, load faster. The new one loads much faster than this. Come on. Maybe I should have gone for the new one. Bear with it one moment, please. Goodness me. I'm definitely regretting my life choices with what I've loaded in here. I'll need to check this out. Right, so let me share my screen. Whatever. Let me share my screen. Hang on. Desktop. Display capture. Yeah, that's the dude. Right. So, this is something I'm making. Now, let me zoom out a bit. Oops, maybe that was a bit too fast. So, there is a house, and there's a kitchen. Look, there's my kitchen. We have kitchen. There's going to be a kettle and some stuff there. Out the hallway, there's a bedroom, which technically is also going to have a bathroom in it, for a reason. And then there's this sitting room. Now, I've made all of this bar her and the dog, because I can't draw, but I made the couch, the carpets, the walls, the lamp, and everything else. And if I play it, I also made the animations. Now, she doesn't do a lot, as I said. Try not to be too excited. But she starts sitting down, so she gets up. The dog's kind of having a snooze, right? She gets up. She's supposed to do some actions. Oh, the dog gets up. She is not doing her actions. What is wrong with her? She is not doing the actions. The dog's doing his. Why isn't she doing hers? It was working before. Hang on. Why is she not doing her thing? Hang on. She should be doing all of this. Did I disable it for some reason? Where is she? Oh, I did fucking disabled it. What a numpty. So there she is. She gets up. She touches her toes. Look. Touches her toes. Bit of a stretch. Bit of a twist. And then she wanders off, and the dog will follow her eventually. And she goes off to make a cup of tea, have a pee, and this will be what I will put up on my screen while the Twitch ads are playing. So that's my plan. I am not overly talented, but that is my plan. So hopefully you quite like that. But that will be my plan. That is basically what I think you should do. I have no art talent, but what I do have is logic, and clearly so do you. So you could do that too. I promise you, you could do that too. If you like me can look at something and go, I can make that, or I want to make that bigger. Well, I'll just add, the same number of those all round. That'll make it proportionally bigger. Result, you've got that logic. You could write that. Okay. There's, as I said, I bought the lady and the dog. The dog comes pre-animated, so his jump, his sit, his lie down was all sorted for me. Didn't have to do that. I did animate the woman, but there's a brilliant program out there that is basically free. Well, basically there is a program called Cascadeur where you put the lady in and you get like her hand and move it and you twist her and you do all of that and it and make keyframes and then it blends them gently together. So that was her. That was me. I got her to how I got her to touch her toes. I mean, if you think about it, touching your toes really isn't that bad. But I tried to do it so that it didn't do funky things with the shoulders and all the rest of it. So much as I could not animate, a walking stick man, I did those animations. And then the script itself basically says, wait this long, fire this. Wait this long, fire this to fire off the next animation. So that's all it is. So I promise you, you could do that. But what I thought I would do is I'd do that and have it as kind of like while the adverts run, because they're like 3 minutes, whatever it is. And so, hey, Silver Dragon, you missed my demonstrations of the sad things that I do. But anyway, Tammy, that's my plan. I do have a bit more for it. So she's going to go in the kitchen. She'll walk into the kitchen where there will be a cup and she'll make a cup of tea. She'll go to the bathroom. Now, you won't see her going to the bathroom because I'm not that stupid, but she'll kind of you'll see her go into a room, there'll be a toilet, and she'll shut the door. She'll stay in there a while, and the dog will sit outside looking sad, kind of thing. She'll come out of it, go back in the kitchen, get her cup, wander back to her chair, and I will have timed it so that takes the same amount of time as the 3-minute break for the ads. And there's a TV in the sitting room that will have like Twitch, and what will happen is the logo will come up, it will trigger all of those animations, and well, no, especially she technically actually doesn't even have legs. She's only got a skirt. There are no legs under there. So it would be a bit difficult. But it is that kind of thing, is that, like a lot of, it's a bit like in the 80s films where they suggested that people were intimate by, they're lying on a bed and then the camera rises to look out the window and the morning comes, right? We know what they meant, right? So I am planning that kind of activity, in that not those kind of activities, but I have planned activities, and all I need to really do is she'll pat the dog, I've got patting the dog action half done. So yeah, I do intend to finish that and have that as something I can play during the adverts, so that, you know, because that's what I suggest you do with it. It's not to watch the bloody adverts, you know. You know, well, exactly. Maybe she'll, you know, if she's anything. There was a model I got. I paid good money for it, and I was really disappointed. I paid good money for this model. When I say model, I don't mean person model. I mean, you know, digital model. And when I got it, Picasso is the only word that you could affiliate with this. In the one eyeball was kind of over there on a stalk. The other one did kind of almost like a heartbeat sign and was over there. And one arm was about 12 foot long and really thin. And it was like, I paid money for this. It is someone who is well known of. Now, they then openly admitted to me that they didn't actually make it themselves, that it was someone else, so they had to send it off to be fixed. And you're kind of going, but I paid you for that. If all you do is buy it from someone else, why don't I just buy it from someone else, you know? But it proper was serious Picasso. I've got some pictures on my phone somewhere. I'd have a job to find them, but I will give it a go. Hang on. I need to... I don't suppose... Nope. Now, it was quite a while ago, so let me see if I can find it this way. Hang on. Might even have been pre-dog. I know it's in here. That's the only thing, is I do know it's in here. So, hang on. And they do stand out because they really are quite... spectacular is the... But obviously when I searched for the word model in the photo, it didn't associate it because, well, it doesn't look like a human, that's for sure, even though that's what it was supposed to be. Bear with me. I'm sure it's back this way, because I'm sure it was back this way. I heard that, dog. That was not a fly or a mosquito. That was very much dog butt. There was the funny film that I watched where they crash landed like on the Hudson and kind of thing. But in one of the shots, they forgot to CGI the plane back in. Remember I said about really, 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 really ugly jumpers? I mean, this is a designer jumper. I mean, seriously. You know, I'm not paying good money for that. That's why I had it as a picture. I know I'm in the right ballpark for finding this picture. I know it's around here somewhere. I know, who in their right mind would pay good money for that, right? You know, it looks something like an 8-year-old child made. And that's great, because, you know, as an 8-year-old child, kudos to you for making it. But do not be charging 500 notes for it, which is what it was. It was about that kind of money. Oh, look. Here's a picture of me making that jumper. I told you. I'm pretty sure the picture's around here somewhere. Fiona and the purple squirrel, the ducks. I know it's around here somewhere. I do. I feel it in my bones. And I just need you to share with it, because it is the funniest thing. And because I know you'll appreciate it because it is funny. As I say, I paid good money for it, and well, disappointingly. So that's so it's not there. There's no way I'd have missed it. It stands out too much. There's a pair of pictures of the two different models, one for male, one for female, and well, frankly, it is the worst abomination in the history of digital art. Truly is. It's around here somewhere. Pictures of my puppies when they was littles. When they was very littles. When they were proper littles. My house before they destroyed it. A lot of pictures of dog. A hell of a lot of picture of dog. More pictures of dog. I know it's round here because it's this time. I know it's kind of in the 2020 region, which is why I know it's around the time of the jumper. Because I was sitting at the computer in that room. And that's where I was in 2020, and towards the end of 2020 I moved in here, so it should be in here. I mean, there's a tiny chance I deleted them, but I really doubt it because they're too funny. Absolutely confident it's one of these. So I apologise, this is not the most exciting thing, but when I find it, you'll appreciate it. Thank you for the follow. No, but you know what it's like. I know that staring at my pillow while I stare at my phone is, so hugely intellectually stimulating. But the worst thing is I know if I can find it, you'd get such a kick out of it because it is really funny. No, I do this to myself. Believe me, I don't really take any encouragement. I'm really good at distracting myself. See, I'm confident that it was before this. I'm sure it was before this. But maybe not. So let's go back this way a bit then. I'm very sure it was before then. Because that's when my computer was dying. And that... Oh! Squirrel moments are terrible. You're properly in the middle of something, minding your own business, and your brain just goes, nope, I'm doing something else now, and poof. No, see, I swear it was before this. I swear it was before this. Well, maybe I'm wrong, so let's be kind. I mean, just in case, let me go through a bit more on the off chance that my brain is lying about the series of events and roughly when it was. Because if I do find it, it is worth it. As I say, there is a small chance I deleted it, but They did make me laugh, so I'd be surprised. It's not usual for me to delete something that was kind of that amusing. There they are. So, again, apologies for the boomer style sharing, but this is model number 1. Note the random bit heading down to his foot and the bit sticking out to the right. And this is the lady. Note the eyeballs. I paid, I hope you see it down, I paid £300 for this and some clothes that they come with that you can interchange and all the rest of it, which also didn't work, by the way. And he got really quite upset when I went, this is poo. Dear sucketh Maximus-ish. And he was like, oh, don't know what's wrong with yours. Well, that's how it came out. That's what you're selling, love. So you clearly didn't check it. Congratulations. Right, so we've done one side of my Eye of Sauron. Now we need to do the other eye, the other side. So how is everybody today? Don't forget, Monsters and Memories in an hour. I will be monstering and memorying this weekend. So there is very low chance of predictable streaming, if any streaming, over the weekend. Because, well, I'll be being an ogre and answering questions in chat. So, because that's what I do. I actually don't generally end up playing the game very much. I end up answering questions for new people. So, it is not my job. I am not paid for this. But I do it out of love. Because the first time I played, I was incredibly frustrated when I couldn't find things. They have done a lot of work on it, because it's not even in early access yet. I mean, to be honest, my Twitch thing is... My Twitch ads kind of animation is arguably more finished than their game, although their game is very much playable. They've got a lot of work they want to do on it before they release it to the world. So much like my Twitch thing, there's a lot that they're working on. But there is a playtest this weekend. It is free. You download the client, you give it a go. You can you hating it or you love it. If you ever played old style MMOs, so EverQuest mainly, but World of Warcraft, that kind of thing, it is that genre. There are wood elves and ogres and shit. And I will be, most likely, depending on which characters I log into, an ogre. But my name will be Liz Biscuit, and you can say hello to me. I do eventually get hacked off with some of the damn comments that I'm answering, because someone will say things like, "Where's the bank?" So you explain where the bank is, and you'll have seen someone, some of the names, go through. You don't necessarily commit them all to memory, but you do remember seeing them. So you'll have seen that they've been online for a while now, because you remember them saying something in chat before. And then suddenly, and so on the next line, having just said where the bank was, "Where's the bank?" Can you not freaking read? I mean, just because your name wasn't on it, the bank doesn't move depending on who you are. you know, you could kind of, you know, try. And when I get to that point, I either log off or I go and play something else, to give myself a bit of a break, because you do occasionally just want to kind of go smack 'em one. And it's not always their fault. Some of them are, like the guy last time, so there was a stress test. Now, in a stress test, you're not really there to play the game. You're there to do whatever they need you to do, so that they can try and optimise their game, so that when you do come to play it, it's playable, right? And he was like, how do I do this? Where do I get that? Where's this? Where's that? And I'd answered like 20 questions. And instead of asking them in chat, he was asking them to me direct, which is kind of rude anyway, but he was asking me direct. And when I kind of went, I'm not your mother, you know, and I kind of went, well, have you tried? Well, I don't see what I'm supposed to do. And I said, yeah, but you haven't tried yet. You're constantly asking me, you haven't tried yet, and you know, I'm calling a halt to it. I don't want to answer anymore. Oh, what's the matter with you? Why are you so moody? Because of people like you, Sunshine. Because 40 fucking questions later, you haven't actually done anything yet. So yeah, it is funny how some people just get the real mood because you've answered the same question for like 36 hours and you're kind of done with answering it now. Well, that too. I mean, hello. You know, I'm not going to deny that's not a factor of it all. I have a question for you if you're currently going through the same shit I am. Do you find that still roughly once a month you're kind of moody, but that's kind of it? You still have kind of some of the mood swing aspect. You haven't lost that kind of portion, but you've lost some of the other portions of the monthly events. Okay, not just me then. I should point out I don't have a mother to ask because, well, yeah. Anyway, and none of my other friends are going through it yet. So, sweet. Yeah, I'm kind of glad all of that, you know, I'm basically done with the monthly issues of life. Because, to be honest, I never made any use of them. So it was a bit of a waste of biology effort, if you know what I mean. But it's just one of those kind of like, see, I told you it was a waste of time. No, it's kind of, I mean it with the greatest respect, I don't know any women who would. I mean, you know, I don't ever remember a woman going, hallelujah, it's that time, I'm so happy. You know, it's just not something that happens, you know. I mean, obviously, the ability to have children is something that many people do find good, and I don't disagree with that. I really don't. But at the same time, it wasn't me. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, especially when it's hot. I mean, in the middle of winter, I'm not going to say they're all right, but they can have a bit of a use. A bit of a hot flush in winter could be quite nice when you're cold. But in summer, when you're already like breathing in and sweating out, the last thing you need on this planet is a hot flush. It just needs to go do one. it is a pointless exercise that has no purpose in my life whatsoever. And, can we just get it over and done with? And how many bloody years of this shit have I got to endure before it's done? It's... Because one of the problems I had was that I started my monthly cycles at 7. So I've been doing this a very long time, and I'm kind of more than ready for it to be over. I have, here I am, sort of like, 45 years later or whatever it is, and I am done with this. I am more than done with this. I never needed this. I didn't enjoy this. It's been a long time. I feel I've done my share now. Can we pass it on now? Someone else can carry the flag, as it were. The Eye of Sauron doesn't look too bad. I'm not sure whether I want it on my net curtain though, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't hate making it. But on that note, I've got to order some tea so that I am ready for this evening's thing. I'm going to call it quits because, well, this is a really good time to call it quits. I possibly won't be streaming over the weekend. I could stream Monsters and Memories, but then I got to fiddle with all the settings, and I'm shit enough at remembering to change the settings. So, probably not. And so yeah, I am going to take a picture of my Eye of Sauron. Where's my phone go? There he is. Take a picture of the Eye of Sauron as today's motif. Let's have a look. Focus. Thank you very much. Here we go. Eye of Sauron. Probably could do with slightly better tensioning actually, but we can. Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. The question is, do I want what looks like buttonholes, because they do look a lot like buttonholes, because of course it's got a gap in the middle, so it would fit a button. But yeah, I shall, if I'm not back over the weekend, so if you're not aware, I have a Discord channel. It's less about the conversation and more about the whole kind of notification. Well, that's awesome. Well, I was going to say, if you do Twitch is supposed to send out notifications, but I do know that it can be pretty poor about it. But my Discord channel, you are very welcome to post pictures. So now, obviously, I understand if you don't want to post pictures of your granddaughter because she's a child. But certainly, if you'd like to share some of the things she's got up to or the things that you make, we'd love to see them. I'd love to see what you're making in general. Because, well, you're crafty like me. And given that you're basically the same age as me. And yes, I know that. Of course, I'm just leaving. I've got Monsters and Memories in about 45 minutes. Yes, darling, you came too late today. Today is Friday. Friday is 2 o'clock day. Friday is afternoon day. But yes, unlikely to be streaming much over the weekend. But I will be about. I will be on Discord. And the flags will go up on Discord should I kick in, and hopefully Twitch, but I know how good they can not be about things. So I will definitely speak to you guys Monday, unless I have Monday from hell. Well, you missed a few things today, Nautica. You missed my Celtic knot, you missed my jumper, you missed us make the Eye of Sauron. It's not something you can't catch up with, my friend. Worry not. Anyway, it is time for me to order some food because it's takeout night. Hence, it's chicken nuggets for the dogs' day. Yep, we heard that one, didn't we? Are you awake or are you asleep? Those are funny eyeballs, my friend. Take care, Tammy, and be good. Enjoy the crafting. I would love to see some photos. I shall see you all next week for sure. Potentially at the weekend, but maybe not. Depends as the mood takes me, to be honest. Because I do intend to be Monsters and Memorying. So, take care, everybody. Maybe see you in Monsters and Memories. Bye-bye.